Jordan and I were going to just talk a little bit about building our businesses in the ag space, building businesses in ag, investing in the ag space, all the crazy mistakes we've made. Some good, some not so good, probably more not so good, I would say. But just some of the things that we're thinking about differently and trying to mentor Jordan in his businesses and my daughter coming on board, so I thought it was relevant. We try to just want to share with people in the audience, and hopefully, like I said, we try to put your perspective in mind, and hopefully you can glean some things out of it that you can take back and use in your businesses. I know we have all levels of scale in the room, from super large scale businesses to from the smaller mom and pops, but I think things are relevant that we've learned and that we're going to talk about here. So should be a fun session. We're excited about doing it. Appreciate Jordan coming up. Probably nobody's made more mistakes than Jordan in the last year or two, growing his as well. So I think we've got a lot that we can share. What we've found, and this is through, I think a lot of you know, I did work with Nardelli and Dave Krumholtz. Dave passed away a couple years ago. He was really one of my main mentors. He was the CEO of Payless Cashways when he took it into bankruptcy and bankrupted Payless, but another large operation, and he was also CEO of a couple other large companies. But I learned a lot from them, and just things that I can share, and that I'm seeing maybe things that I've been throwing some money at that I shouldn't have been throwing money at. Let's put it that way. I think the recipe for success is, I like investing in a non-speculative market. And what I mean by that is Steve Jobs picked music. Bezos picked books. We pick hats. Dumb it down. Keep it simple. Non-speculative market. I throw way too much money at the speculative markets, and I think you've got to reel that in a little bit. I think you also have to be in a fragmented space. In this case, Jobs, fragmented as could be in music. Bezos was fragmented as could be in books. Us in hats, fragmented as can be. There's a mom and pop everywhere that there is. Sam Walton's business, fragmented as can be. Again, Sam Walton, a great example. Non-speculative market, fragmented as can be. And then you try to provide a simplified and a premium product in place. With Apple's claim to fame is, they take a MP3 player that was very complicated, had too many engineers in the room, and the whole thing was filled with buttons and widgets and shit. Nobody knew what the hell an MP3 player was. And it existed, but Jobs took it, dumbed it way down, got the engineers out of the room, put one button on the thing, and it became simplified. And the marketing was awesome. 10,000 songs in your pocket. That was it. Super simple, dumbed down. Find a way to create a premium product in a simplified space. So we love that recipe for success. I put in there a few of the things that they added to make that. We believe you take sustained innovation plus disruptive innovation, and that's one of your keys and one of your key ingredients to invest in or to create a business around. And we think there are lots of those in this room. And, I just think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic in the ag space because I think we can do that. If you look at Sears, they simply leveraged new railroads and the Postal Service and created the catalog. Amazon leveraged the internet and books with the upspringing of FedEx and UPS to create their model. So, you start to ask, how do you build these? How do you build these businesses? And we heard Dowd say, what's the Achilles heels? Labor, labor, labor. And, we're really finding that out, Jordan and I, the hard way on building some of our ag businesses out. It's tough to get people. And we're trying to find new ways to attract talent, keep talent. How much do we offer them? I'm a big fan of Les Schwab. We had partners in some automotive repair places several years back, many years back. And I always studied Les Schwab a lot. He blew up the tire business, just created it from nothing. He came from nothing and created one of the biggest independent tire companies, retail tire operations in the United States. So, and his big claim to fame was, put it in the hands of the people and reverse the flow a little bit. let your intel come. I always talk to Jordan about it. You know, a lot of it, us go from top down on the intel. When you get into the military, a lot of the intel in the smaller groups, faster, more efficient groups, is from the front line back. And Les Schwab was a big proponent of front line back. So he put a lot of merit and weight into his store managers, gave them big chunks of the profit, and wanted them to make the majority of the decisions. Wanted that front line to really be active in making a lot of them decisions. A lot of our ag tech, or a lot of the ag companies that we invest in, you know, it's all coming from the top, and it's coming, you know, from a guy wearing a white golf belt and a lot of times driving a fancy car in from the country club and, you know, sitting in the chariot, so to speak, at the way back of the battle, and isn't really on the front lines and doesn't know how to get through the farm gate and doesn't know how to talk to the farmer, and, you know, a lot of it, that culture is lost down the line. So, you know, I like to invest in companies that are a little more heavily weighted on their front end and allow their front line people to, I guess, be a little more vested, have a little more vested interest, and can call some shots. So I think, you know, have a strong profit sharing program. I think it's imperative. I think how you go about that is up to you. I know Jordan was at a conference recently, and he came home and told me about Golden Corral. I had no idea. Jordan, you tell him.
Yeah, so Emily touched on earlier, always be extremely curious, and I'm curious every day. We talk all the time. I'm like, hey, what the hell? How'd this guy do this? How'd this guy do that? And I found the Golden Corral story just crazy interesting once I dove into the business a little bit. And what I found was I was really curious how Golden Corral's been around this long, and they have continued to dominate the restaurant space. And you would have thought COVID would have killed them, like a buffet chain restaurant. Didn't happen. So I looked into their business model a little bit, and what I found was skin in the game was the key to their scale. And what they did was they really entitled the managers, and they kind of failed at first because they entitled the managers and gave them percentage of the profits, but nothing really happened. So they changed their program around a little bit, and they started giving managers the opportunity to earn 20% of the profits of the chains they ran if they paid $20,000 to the company. So they had a little bit of skin in the game. And the mindset started changing a little bit. So some guys, they had stories of guys, they would, like conferences like this, they would attend these conferences, and after the conferences, they would go around and collect all the free pens and give them to their waitresses to write down the tickets. Or people would use old copy paper to write down the tickets. There was one story, a guy went in and started drilling holes in the dumpster because they do the dumpsters by weight, so all the liquid would fall out of the dumpsters, and they would earn more money through the dumpsters. So I just found it very interesting, and I think that's something we're really trying to implement on AgSwag, is trying to figure out how to get our key people more skin in the game to where they actually care and they want to be a part of the business and watch it grow.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing we're seeing is, you know, a lot of the companies, you know, they have some skin in the game, but like Jordan said, when they just gave it to them, when it was just given to them, they didn't really go out and do all that much. But when they actually had to put up and sock away some of their money and some of, you know, their hard-earned money to put at play, a lot of things changed. So I like that dynamic. I had not ever heard that before, and what it brought about. So I think it's important. You know, and I think we've missed a lot of opportunities to hire, or I guess not hire, we've missed promoting some of the people that we should have promoted. And I wish I would have looked at things differently, you know, years ago, and probably let some good people slip away from our group that I should have kept. And I always like, you know, I hear Simon Sinek talk and some of the other guys talk about the SEAL team and, you know, how they a lot of times pick leaders and different groups like that. And we say, if this trust is your bottom, continuing performance to the left, you know, low performer, low trust, well, hell, obviously he's not going to be your guy. Most of the time, it ends up being this high performer, low trust. You know, this is the guy you trust with your life, but you don't trust with your money or your wife. That is the guy that can make shit happen and gets things done, but you're not really sure about the person. And a lot of times that person ends up being who we reward the most. And as leaders or CEOs or business leaders, you got to rethink that a little bit. That high performer, low trust may be creating more problems than certainly than they're worth. And like I said, sometimes you have to let that person just be, he's got to be Jason Bourne. He's got to be on his own plan, his own program. You can't let him really impact a lot. High performer, high trust would be the most optimal, but that generally doesn't happen. Generally, it's the medium performer that is high trust, really the guy you want in your foxhole or gal. And I think, oftentimes as owners of a company, we get our minds set on certain goals or things we need to reach or objectives or profit percentages, and, we let that high performer really run herd, and I think it hurts us. So we've kind of changed our mindset. We're putting a lot of weight in trust, and they may not be the best performer and the best at every single task we ask, but we know they're going to have our back, and we're going to have theirs, and together, I think we can grow bigger businesses into bigger channels. So as business owners, everyone out there, I would just encourage you to pay more and more attention, because oftentimes we lose sight of that. I know I do, and we have tried to change things around just a little bit. I think Jordan and I talked a bunch. We were watching that Lakers series, and I used to be a huge basketball fan. I don't even watch NBA anymore, but back in the day, I was a big basketball fan, and I always loved Jerry West, and I always heard Jordan talk about how Jordan would say he was never probably better than Jerry West. A lot of people said Jerry West was maybe one of the best to ever play the game, but Jordan, tell him the...
Yeah, you think about, you look in the room, and I ask you, who's the best basketball player of all time? Top of mind, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. My dad would say Magic Johnson, maybe Larry Bird. You look in the 60s, you're talking Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain. Who in here says Bill Russell? I doubt I get that answer from anybody. And just a few stats. So in the postseason, points per game, Jerry West, 29.1. Bill Russell, postseason points per game, 16.2. West's favorite stat was points. Bill Russell's favorite stat was wins. And Russell's mindset was always, what could I do to make the team better? And he would also figure out how he could make his teammates better. West tried to win the game by himself, and that's definitely something that we're working on now, is trying to build a team to where I'm the coach and I'm trying to make my teammates better. But then you look at the overall stats, Jerry West, amazing accomplishments, amazing stats throughout his life. 1 championship. Bill Russell, 11 championships. Most in any sports of all time. And I was watching some Bill Russell interviews as we made this slide, and one of the most interesting philosophies he had that I found extremely interesting was professional athletes are paid to win, they aren't paid to play. So something we're working on big time in our business is building a team around us to succeed around us, and to where we're not the only players running around trying to make the plays.
Yeah, and I told Jordan, one of my biggest Achilles heels throughout life, I can go clear back to the day I remember working for Andy Daniels, and his dad came in, Stu came in, give me some worldly wisdom about learning how to delegate and learn how to coach people up. And shit, I wasn't good at it then, and I'm really not good at it now. I'm more Jerry West like. I had the privilege to listen to Jerry West talk a couple different times, and he says, he just wished he would have tried to make his teammates a lot better. But my go-to is I'll hire people, and they'll be doing something, and I'll have told them once, maybe twice. Man, third time, I'm just like, just stop. I'll just do this shit myself. And then that is a bad move. That's where things, it's just a bad move. And you have a tough time. Jordan's running into that right now. You're trying to hire and build out teams, and it's like, Dad, it's taking forever to train these people and train it. I could just do this damn job easier myself. And, you could for a while, but you're not going to scale a business, just like Andy's dad, told me. He's like, we're never going to scale if you're just going to be the guy that you can only do what you can do. You can only do so much. So, I think it's imperative to just spend more time and, as a leader, coaching up your team. You have to go around and try to coach up the team and provide people with the tools and be asking them, what can I give you to help you do a better job? What tools can I provide you with that'll help you do your job better, more effectively, more efficiently? And, how can we collectively as a team move the ball in the right direction? Too often as founder, operator, owners, we just get frustrated and we say, hell with it. I got to hire any more people. I'm just going to do the damn thing myself. And I understand it. We're there a lot of times. And but I just go back to the Bill Russell winning 11 championships and Wes winning one. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of championships if you can't delegate and you can't get people inspired to build a team and to work together and to do the best they can. You're not going to win championships. That's all there is to it. And I think some people, in the room should take some time and reflect on it. And I have for sure, and I know it's definitely what I struggle with, and to build out the team and to keep building teams. There's some people who are great at it and just awesome at it. And I tell Jordan, we got to try and learn from them and learn everything we can from those people. So if you know someone that's great at building teams, and their demeanor is different. They're super personable people, and they got a great demeanor, and they do a great job at building the team. So I think they're just two different focuses. If your focus is on doing it yourself and just making it happen and getting it, and just moving the ball, it's a lot different than just fully focusing on building a team. And it's a game changer for sure, and it's something we constantly have to remind ourselves of and work on as we move forward. The other thing we're thinking a lot about lately is moats. How the hell can, in Buffett's world, is the moat widening or narrowing? And you look at it damn near every day and every week and every month, and is your moat widening or narrowing? It isn't necessarily the distance of the moat, it's the direction of the moat. Just listen to me on this. Is the moat widening or narrowing? Might not even be able to read it, but Buffett commented, we think in terms of businesses as moats and the ability of its team to keep widening the moat as the barometer for a great company. We tell all our money managers we want to see the moat widening every year. That doesn't necessarily mean profit is more this year or last, because it is and won't be sometimes. But we really want to see the moat widening. And I am a huge, huge believer in this as I've gotten older. And Charlie Munger, when we see the moat that's narrowing or getting easier to cross, it's just too risky for us to invest. We don't know how to evaluate that, and therefore we leave it alone. Berkshire, again, in the 2005 letter, explains that widening the moat is Berkshire's #1 priority. When our long-term competitive position improves, we describe the phenomenon as widening the moat. Here's a classic. I'm no good at exits. I don't like even looking for exits. I'm looking for long-term buy and holds in companies that are widening the moat. This applies to our own businesses. Is the moat in your business widening or narrowing? And you have to ask yourself and be honest. Are you using technology? Are you becoming more cost effective? 10 to 25 companies in the S&P 500, Buffett thinks maybe are widening their moat. So I know if I ask everyone in here, we'd get 98% of everyone in here saying their moat's widening. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. And I think it's tough. You have to think about it and really ask yourself the hard questions. I remember when Buffett got big heavily into Geico, and I was always curious how the hell Geico is widening their moat. Well, they're massively, they always are trying to cut their cost and become low-cost provider. And there's a lot of farmers in this room that could, like I said, could easily be low-cost provider, own all their ground, very efficient, work on their own equipment, have no major debt, really, really low debt. Like Geico considers, and Buffett and them, widening the moat is becoming more and more room between you on cost, similar to Tesla. Price of the Model X dropped 6 times, becoming cheaper and cheaper. I don't think their moat's narrowing. I know everyone in the room wants to say, GM and Ford and everyone's coming online. Okay. But I still say Tesla has a massive, massive head start, and their moat is widening in a big way. And I wouldn't say GM's moat's widening or Ford or any of the other ones you want to talk about. We obviously, I'm talking my position. I got a big position in Tesla still, but I believe the moat's widening. Now, how long, as we heard from Tom talk early on, how long, I'm not really sure, but we definitely think that moat is widening. And, and you just have to think of ways that you can do that. Like we said, through technology, through cost, through clients. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ways I'm trying to widen the moat, and I think a lot of people can't seem to get this right, is under promise, over deliver.
Say that one more time.
I'll definitely say that one more time. Under promise, over deliver. The amount of people that over promise and under deliver is insane. I deal with it every day. And the one key secret I would probably say that has taken AgSwag to scale this quick is under promise, over deliver. And two other things I'm heavily investing in is technology and logistics. I mean, those are the two things that are going to continue to widen the moat moving forward. I mean, look at the biggest company, most dominant company in the world, probably with the widest moat, Amazon. They're the best at logistics and they have the best technology. I mean, hands down. You look at Tesla. I mean,
Yeah, and Jordan and I were talking last night, and Jordan said the same thing to me. He's like, well, Dad, most everybody with farms and in the ag startup space, they probably need to focus on widening the moat in logistics and technology. And like I said, I think it's massively important.
yeah, and on the logistics side too, it doesn't have to necessarily tie to you delivering a product. It could tie with you having the best logistics on the back end to get your customer the product they need. Just like Apple. There's another example. Best technology and the best logistics. I mean, you had Ford, all these companies during COVID that couldn't seem to get parts. Well, Apple didn't seem to have an issue. I'm sure they had their logistics completely nailed down to a T. So that's just another thing to think about as well.
Yeah, I agree. I would just put it down, just be paying close attention to what your moat is inside your specific industry or space. Are you being intentional with your moves and your strategies in your business? Choose your customers rather than letting them choose you. This is important, and we do a lot of testing of people when we talk to them at startups, or I'm going to be on a board, or we're going to invest money. And, do you have the business where sales serves marketing or marketing serves sales? We talked about it a little last year, and I continue to hammer it home because, hell, no one can answer the question most of the time when you go out. And sales serves marketing, just simply, that's like perfume sales, a Nike rep. Nike, they make all the big sales come from the marketing department. The rep's just basically going around taking orders at the shoe store, or the shoe store itself's making the sales. So the marketing is driving the customer in. Marketing serves your sales. That becomes, your marketing department is going to have to be good at providing leads to your salesperson. And the quality of lead is really what the focus is. So we talk all the time, Jordan and I, on defining our channels. We try not to service them all with the same manpower, but focus on serving the channels that are willing to pay the premiums. And I think, you have to kind of hone that in and dial it in a little bit. I get on Jordan all the time because I say, I learned one thing from a few good CEOs. You can't always make a profit, but you can always make a customer. And, you have to do that. You have to do that, and you have to be willing to do that in spades, to say the least. So I think it's critically important that, your frontline people have to know that play as well. I mean, you have to give your frontline people leverage enough to let them have some room and wiggle room to make customers and make new clients, new customers, new relationships. As Buffett said, if the moat's widening, you're doing something. The profits might not be there, but you're doing something, and it's going the right way. And eventually, as you've seen with Amazon or Tesla, who were unprofitable, moat's widening, and the next thing, bingo.
Yeah, I mean, the second thing is to really scale in this business is this slide. I mean, as I always tell you, my bad orders end up being my best orders. It's how you handle the bad orders is really what makes a difference in your company and how you keep those customers. Are you more focused on making the $20 on this sale, or are you more focused on keeping the customer and maybe making $20,000, $30,000 over the lifetime of the client?
Yeah, and I think that's important. You have to have that mindset. So, are you managing or growing your business? This is one we constantly debate. It's, you start off, everybody's just growing their business. Then you get some business, hell, the next thing you're allocating more and more time to managing, and then before long, all you're doing is managing. So you have to be constantly aware of that tachometer and where it's at, and you need to be, you have some equal pressure on the gas pedal as far as growing the business, because if you're not, you're probably going backwards if you're just standing still. So we used to believe in really fast, be really fast with your decisions, more of a Facebook type mentality, just go fast, make the decisions. But we've learned that, like when we all played football, you can't just go out there and just start running plays in a 2-minute drill. You don't know the plays. We always walk through the plays, right, guys? We walk through the plays. We go through it, we look at the plays, we walk through the plays the first many times. And then we might go with no pads, and then we're going with shoulder pads only, and the next thing we're going full speed and we're at full tilt. So I've gotten, as I got older, I get mad, I guess, or I would say, God, I can't believe it. But we probably didn't spend enough time walking through the plays with our people. We really need to focus as we get older, and we take it for granted. We know the plays, we ran them a million times. But the new people haven't, and we got to take our time, and we got to walk through some of these plays before we can expect everyone to just be running. And you got to have a repeatable process in place to do that. So, grow your brand from the inside out, build the customer experience from the outside in. I think that's a critical one. And a lot of times in the ag tech space or the ag startup space, it don't happen. And, I think that one is critical. I always tell everyone car insurance is bought, life insurance is sold. So when you're looking at a company, you better know what the hell you got. And if your product's bought, they better be able to find you. So if you're going to tell me you're not going to put a premium up to have a key spot on the internet, and you're not going to be able to drive traffic to your site, or you're not going to have a retail location that's in a prime location. If you're a transactional business and you got a product that's bought, location, location, location. And location is everything. If you got a product that's sold, you better be able to find who you're selling to. I'll tell you right now, one of the bigger success stories in the room would be Meristem, and Organics as well. Meristem, though, I remember Mitch and Rob sitting in my living room at one of the condos downtown, and they had a targeted plan. And they knew what the hell they were going to do, and they knew their customer and who they were going to go after. And as we've seen a lot of ag tech startups laying people off, cutting half the staff, getting rid of 70%, seen Meristem adding. So, like I said, I think they knew the product. I think they knew if it had to be sold or where it was going to be bought, and they knew the dynamics around that. So ask yourself, make sure you ask when you're going to invest or you're starting a new business, is this something sold or is it something that's bought? And then you better have the right dynamics to fit with that. Internal meetings, like I said, talk about budgets, spending, strategy. It's all defense. Everybody in the room whose kids stayed home, or everybody in the room whose partner doesn't like to come to these, he's on defense. He's at home farming. He's worrying about tractors, combines. He's on defense, just to let you know. He's on the managing the business side. He ain't on the growing side, because you come to these things to grow your business. Networking, outside your comfort zone, going outside your space, that's on offense. If they ever want to take over your business, they better learn how to be on offense. And I know you tell them, and I know we tell them. I tell Jordan, I'm like, what the hell are you doing sitting in the office? You ain't going to make any money sitting around here. Get out. Go to something. Go to an event. Go to a conference. Go meet somebody. Well, he'll be like, well, I don't know about that. Dad, I don't know if that person's going to help me. I said, no, but he might know somebody who might help you. So go talk to them and, get out there and network and meet people. Wouldn't you agree? It's been your biggest.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, networking, growing some balls, talking to people when you don't really want to talk to them. I mean, it's not tops on anyone's list. I mean, I do it all the time, but I hate it. It's horrible. Like, it's not fun at all, but you got to do it. Like, if you don't do it, your business is dying. I mean, for sure.
I remember coming across someone when I was younger, and they said, I came across them in Chicago, so I'm like, how the hell did you make all that? And they were in sales or something. And they said, it's easy. You got to tell 30 new people every day what you do. I'm like, what the hell? That's it? Oh, yeah, that's it. I was a dumb kid. I'm like, just tell 30 new people every day what I do. No, yeah. I don't know if I'd done it. I don't know if I was able to do it like 3 times in my life. You know, I mean, it's harder than you think. You got to tell 30 new people. It's like, shit. I was standing at Union Station a few times just telling random people off the train what the hell I was doing. So I, I don't know. Hell, it might have worked, though, I think, eventually. So, but I'm just saying, you got to let the kids know. I love to be on the tractor, too. I love to digging holes and everything up. But that you're playing defense now. You better make sure they know that, and that when we're gone or when we leave them, somebody's got to be playing some offense. So,
I mean, if you find yourself in your comfort zone and you like what you're doing, it probably ain't right.
That's it. You got to be out of your comfort zone.
All the time. I mean, got to continue to push yourself.
Yeah, 50%. If you spend 50% of your time on internal versus external, that means you're basically standing still. So you should be more like 70 to 80% external, 20 to 30 internal is what's the best. Some of the sharpest CEOs I've talked to have said. So it's hard to do. It's way harder than you think. I promise that, because it takes a lot. Let's see if we get it to poker versus chess. I always like this analogy. I use it with Jordan quite a bit. You know, life's more like poker than chess. Cards are face down, and there's a lot of luck involved. You know, a lot of people say it's more like chess. I think it's definitely more like poker. Important to think about right here. Professional poker player plays only about 15 to 20% of all their hands. Many of the best amateurs still play way too many at over 50%. I play way too many hands when it comes to throwing money at stupid things. So I like it. It sounds great. I love everybody's hyped up and everybody's fired up, and I'm getting excited. Next thing, yeah, it's a learning experience, right? Michelle's telling me, wow, another learning experience. So it happens continually. So I would say you pass on some of your average, and how the hell do you know what's an average opportunity or the huge? You don't. You know, that's why I don't invest in, Carter will hate to hear it, I don't invest in biotech companies, period. Because I never heard a story I didn't love. Who in the hell don't love a story about helping a kid or helping somebody with a disease, or you're going to change the world in some capacity? So I just don't do it. Because I'm like a kid in a candy store, and a guy comes to me with something like that. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'll throw some money at it. And, yeah, those boats rarely come home. So I just have to know my personal ability. And similar to trading or golf or poker, we'll all tell you, it's how you play your bad hands that matter, the bad shots, the bad trades. So I always tell Jordan, I said, it's like Michael Phelps. When we'd heard Phelps talk, he'd say, you know, he won more medals in swimming than anyone ever. And like 6 of those, though, came down to a fingertip. Like 6 of those those golds came at like a fingertip. And he'd always say, he's like, well, shit, I think it was because, so he'd train every day, 8 hours a day. And he's like, but on my birthday, on Christmas, on New Year's, on every holiday that everyone might take off, I train twice. So instead of training like 6, 7, 8 hours, he'd trade more like 15, 16 hours. He'd be like, I feel like I'm going to get him on that day, but I'm going to double it up on that day. I'm going to get him twice. And when it came down to a fingertip, that was probably what it was. So I'd tell Jordan, I said, listen, if you can turn a bad order, a bad client, a bad customer, whatever business we may have going, if you can turn that bad person into a brand ambassador, which means they love you, wow, you have really made a spin. Rather than getting into an argument with them, blowing up, all shit going south, and then them, bad-mouthing you on the internet or something crazy happening. I'm like, just think about that. If you can flip that one bad customer, one bad problem that comes up to being a win and being a brand ambassador, man, I'm telling you, what a swing and what a difference you've made in your business. What a massive difference you've made. So I try and challenge everyone to think about that just a little bit. And, I think you'd seen that on Walmart with the return policies and some of the other people that went to the no, not even ask a question. I mean, it seems crazy, but I think that's where that came from. So, it's kind of nuts. We talked a lot this year on trimming back our trees, and it's like crazy to think about. You can't be afraid to take the risk of cutting and trimming back the trees. The trees, we all know this, we're in this business. The trees don't grow as tall as you want them to or become as beautiful as they can be if you don't trim and cut the trees back. Now, I know everybody goes out there and you're kind of scared to cut the trees because you're like, shit, I don't want to kill the damn tree. But you have to. And that's how we are in a lot of our businesses. I mean, you got to take Kevin O'Leary, take the dog out back and shoot it. I mean, some of the businesses, shit, you got to be done. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We've shot many businesses these last few years. And, you know, we keep pouring more into actually, it just keeps kicking off more and more money. You know, it just keeps kicking off more and more. So we shoot more and throw more that direction. You know, shoot more and go in a little different direction. But you got to be willing to discard and trim back the trees in a big way. So, in other words, we ought to be willing to get uncomfortable, vulnerable. That's what we just talked about. Especially have to have vulnerability when it comes to growth and relationships, business, and et cetera. So, and I think that was good. Everyone that comes to this conference, you know, a lot of us don't get outside our comfort zone much. We don't see a lot of other folks just in our community. We certainly ain't downloading an app and getting on an app and connecting with people. And, you know, so, hey, I tip my hat to everybody in the room, and we're all trying to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. So it's good stuff. You know, and this was a big one. I still talk a lot with my buddies that played sports with. Some of them, like I said, won a lot of we got a lot of World Series winners that Jordan and I know, a lot of Super Bowl guys, and we had, you know, early investments. We were in things that help kids and communities with sporting events and different things. But, you know, are you willing to sprint when the distance is unknown? And that's the big question. I mean, who in the hell is willing to sprint when no one's going to tell you how far you got to sprint? And that's the question you got to ask as you go forward. You know, the willingness to sprint with no clear vision to the finish line. And it requires two things: a deep belief in yourself and a deep belief in the mission. And I think they're critical. One without the other doesn't happen. You know, if you got one without two, it ain't going to happen. Two without one, it isn't going to happen. So, you know, are you willing to sprint when the distance is unknown? Like I said, it's my observation, the greatest things in life are accomplished when you are willing to make that commitment, when you're willing to sprint when the distance is unknown. So you got to encourage the kids and encourage the people on your team. You know, go out there and find those rare things in life that you're willing to sprint for and go for it. And I think, you know, that's what we've done and we try to do within our businesses. We're not always successful, but we certainly tried to. And wouldn't you agree we had no idea where the hell we were going with probably 90% of the businesses. You're going to hear some panelists tomorrow on, you know, Jordan and I started that, how you built this ag business. Shit, Jordan and I have learned a ton from that, just talking to everyone. And I can't tell you how many people didn't know shit when they started. I mean, just had ball. I mean, just got out there and did it, and just jumped in the water, knew a little bit, and just got after it. And we're really willing to sprint when they didn't know the distance that they were going to have to sprint. Now, you know, I don't know if they'd do it again when we'll ask them, but they were certainly willing at the time to jump in and dive in. And so some of the most successful business owners in this room, whether it's from the Whipple family to the Stutzmans to, you know, whoever it may be out there that we sure appreciate and look up to is how they built their businesses. I mean, I know their parents and grandparents were certainly willing to sprint when the distance was unknown, and that's what it all comes down to. So I think it's big, and there's a lot of those people in the room, and you could certainly ask them as mentors and talk to a lot of great leaders in here. So we're super excited. We're going to wrap up with our next guest. It's talking of leadership, so we kind of want to roll into it. J.J. Cummings, I got a call middle of the year. I think it was from Carter, and he's like, hey, man, you got to get this guy to come to Farmcon. You got to get this guy again. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? And Carter's like, no, dude, this guy's like, he was the advisor for Top Gun, Navy SEAL. He was the captain. He commanded the USS Gerald Ford. He was in charge of, you know, our most powerful aircraft carrier, most money sunk into any technology that we have in the government. And so I said, well, how do you get a hold of him? I call him up, and JJ's got a big Boston draw to it. You know, he's from Boston, and he said, hell, I'd love to come down to Kansas City, and I think it would be great. And he just recently retired, and he's kicking off kind of his speaking career. And I said, well, there'll be a lot of people in the room that own ag businesses, and we're all super appreciative of our military and the service that everyone provides, and we'd love to hear more about leadership. So I want everyone to welcome JJ to the stand, and we're going to hear what he has to say, and then we'll wrap things up today. I appreciate it.